Welcome to our Tech Talk. So, how's the week coming till now for iPhone users basically?
Yeah, so iPhone X is finally out.
Yes.
I mean, people were queuing to it. I mean,
it got sold out in a couple of minutes.
Yeah. So it's a great phone, but the price tag is the problem, right?
Here now, I think in Sri Lanka, if you buy it unofficially, it's about 250,000, 240,000, right?
Yeah. So officially, it should be around 160, right?
Correct.
But this Sri Lanka, so with the tax and everything, it
actually
was
for the phone still you don't get a phone doesn't have a tax, but you have to say in BT, VAT, only that, and then
indirect taxes, right?
Correct. But that much. But anyway, the rupee has depreciated a lot.
Yeah, that's also an issue, right? It's almost like 160 something, right?
Correct.
So,
but would you buy one? That's the question I have.
I mean, to look at and to use it, obviously it looks pretty great. I mean, if we take out the fact that it's way too expensive, as a phone it looks different than other phones, right? I mean, iPhone series, they have made a difference this time with the notch and everything. But Kalinga, if you take iFixit reviews and everything, what they're saying, it's not very easily repairable.
So basically, it's not repairable.
Yeah. So it has both back and front glass. So if
every phone does, right?
Yeah. If you drop it, then.
So if you drop this.
Yeah.
So nowadays, so when you're buying a phone, you're buying a risk, right?
Yeah.
So there can be multiple risks that you have to take. I mean, earlier days, only thing you had to worry about was whether the phone will last for X amount of time in regards to the build quality, right?
Yeah.
Now what you need to worry about is if I drop it, will the glass break, whether the screen will break, whether there's a software
bug. Manufacturers are so like obsessed with making it thinner and thinner, and you are forced to like use a case with it.
Correct.
I mean, it's who wants a very thin phone? I mean, I don't want a very thin phone.
I mean, it has been, I mean, if you take the evaluation of phones, so basically it used to be like a Gadol Bagat, that's what you used to call it, right? Then it came smaller and smaller and smaller. I think I had one of these Nokia 8250. It's like
and they remove great features like 3.5 millimeter jack just to make it thinner, right?
That logic is being proven wrong. But in terms of the small, so what happened, it got really small, right? So I remember, I think the smallest phone I had was, there's the Motorola V50, which is a flip phone, right? That's really small. I mean, this much, right?
Yeah.
And then I had the 8250, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's a Nokia. So that was like almost this much, right? So if you hold it with your hand, you barely see the phone, right? And then with that, we evolved back into the
bigger screen.
So the screen started getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Now the phones are getting bigger, right? So they need to cut down somewhere, right? So the innovation is not going fast enough. So every year they need to come up with something. Now the trend is to make it thinner.
So I've seen a parent from Microsoft where they are doing a pretty innovative 3.5 millimeter jack, which like expands when you plug the jack. So you can fit it into a thinner phone.
So, I mean, forget about the 3.5, right? That's 2.5. The standard is there, right? The 2.5 millimeter jack is there. I don't think it's a jack till. I think one thing is they need to meet this IP standard in terms of water resistance, right?
True.
So the jack make it harder. So I think that's one of the reasons they're trying to get rid of it. Because one thing is that that get used, and that's like a bigger hole than anything else, right? So you have now, they only have to worry about one then two, right? You have the charger port plus this. So if you get
you use the same thing to do both.
Correct. And plus you can sell a lot of expensive headphones.
And dongles.
And dongles and chargers for the dongle, for the headphones. So it's it's a bit of a marketing as well. I mean, Apple known to do this, right? So they always remove ports. So for example, newer MacBooks doesn't even have a USB 2 or a 3, right? It's USB-C. But people do buy it. People do use it. I think that's been adapted by now. Google did it. I think others will follow as well. But I don't think Samsung will do it. But I don't know. I mean, now this is the same as an iPhone, right? still have the jack.
So if you like compare iPhone X with the Note 8 recently released one, Note 8 has like almost twice the RAM.
Okay. Now the question people would ask, would you buy an iPhone X or an iPhone 8? So we've been asking people to wait for the 10, right? So it's not the X. I mean, we have to say it. I mean, Apple even like correcting people saying it's not the X, it's the 10, right? But people still call it X, and we had to go with that. Right? So iPhone 10 or an 8. So if you are on iPhone 7, what would you do? Will you buy an 8 for a cheaper price or go for the 10?
I mean, obviously, if you want to like show off.
No, forget about the showing off, right? In terms of the innovation, in terms of the tech, as an iPhone user, what would you buy?
I'd go for the 10. But
so obviously, there you go.
No buts.
There's no question about it. You buy the latest version, right? I mean, compared to the iPhone 8, I think the 10 is much better. I like the screen, right? So it's a good screen. Hopefully there won't be any burn-ins.
What they're saying is, Kalinga, they have few guidelines for this screen. So what they're asking is,
no, this is actually funny. You buy your phone and you get a guideline out.
This applies to all. I think OLED. I think. So you should like avoid using it full brightness.
That's obvious.
So let the phone use the auto brightness feature.
Correct.
So that will do a lot of work.
Yeah. I mean, this is Apple, right? Why don't you just disable the manual brightness?
Yeah.
You could do it. I mean, this is.
But they will get blamed for it if you remove that option as well. So.
But that's fine, right? They don't really worry about it. They just.
So they don't care about what people think they want to.
Okay. So in terms of this, I think people have the I mean, I don't know, when tech companies do things, they expect people to know this, right?
Yeah.
For example, my wife, yesterday, her MacBook battery has really bulked up. Okay. Even the touchpad has come up.
Right.
I mean, just imagine how much that battery is bulked up. So the reason behind this is, every time I see it, my wife always keep that laptop plugged in.
Okay.
I mean, being this is an Apple Mac, they do a lot of things in terms of how they manage a battery, right?
Yeah.
But for lithium and all other batteries, having that state of charge at 100% all the time, it's not great.
Okay.
So, I mean, this is proven. So it's all applied to all nickel. So forget about the nickel cadmium, right? Other batteries, lithium polymer. So this is really bad for batteries to stay at that level. I mean, we talk about this. I mean, how many times?
Multiple times. Yeah.
So battery technology is still way behind. But with that, we had to take a small break. But after this break, we'll talk about more how to keep that battery safe. Welcome back. So when we were talking about batteries, right? So what best practices? I mean, I was thinking about this, right? So batteries are now coming into not only laptops, not only to phones.
Yeah.
And it's in cars as well, right?
Yeah.
So now today we have a fuel crisis. So everyone who has a electric car is laughing at the others, like. So, but the problem again with these electric cars are they're new. They have the same battery that your laptop has.
Yeah.
And if you are a laptop user, you know how long that battery lasts, right?
Yeah.
So any laptop user would know if it's like a mid-range or below laptop, unless it's a really high-end good one.
Yeah.
It won't last more than 6 months.
Yeah. I mean, lot of cheap ones which you get around less than 50K.
I mean, even 100,000.
The battery life
right?
is nothing, right?
So compared to battery life, I mean, we are not talking about how long you can use a laptop with the battery, right?
Yeah.
We are talking about how long your battery would last for like.
You will have to use it plugged in at least after 6 months.
So otherwise you'll die, right?
Yeah.
So battery capacity degrade with time. When I say degrade, it just, so what happens is when you first get your laptop or a phone or a car, the time the battery would last is longer, right?
Yeah.
So that's the full potential state of health of that battery is 100%. So, but all these lithium batteries has something called number of cycles you can charge. On an average, on a Mac, it's about 3 to 400 times, and after that, it starts to degrade.
Okay.
So it stay at, so what they say, it will stay at above 90, up to 5 to 600 charges, right, maximum.
Yeah.
So after that, what happens is it degrade. But that has lot of other factors in place, right? For example, let's say Tilina, so what lot of car manufacturers, the electric car manufacturers recommend is, since this is more important and this is more expensive, right? Laptop battery, you forget about it, you pay like 15,000 rupees, you replace it.
Yeah.
But if you take electric cars, especially the Leaf, which doesn't have active cooling. So when I say active cooling, all the battery, not only batteries, all electronic components last longer if the temperature is maintained at a manageable level, right?
Okay.
So we are living in a country where the temperature is really high, it's hot, so the temperature, ambient temperature is really high.
Yeah. Even at night,
it's high.
Yeah.
So what normally practice when you use a laptop or an EV car, what happens is you come from a trip, you don't even think about it, you plug it in, right?
Yeah.
So laptops are the same scenario, right? You're using it while it's plugged in, so your CPU is getting heated, so that battery is staying inside the basically oven, right?
Yeah.
So ambient temperature might be 30 Celsius, but inside that battery it might be 40, 45, right? So that actually affect the chemical structure of the battery, reducing its life.
Yeah, and also when you are using laptops, mostly you are using it on a bed or a chair, right?
Correct.
So then all the vents and the ways air can flow are covered.
Yeah. So with this, the logic, what the problem here now, Tilini, is for a laptop, we have no control over how to stop the battery from charging, right?
Yeah.
On an EV car, you can set it up to 80% and say don't charge it beyond 80.
Okay.
So what happens is it reduces the number of cycles, right? So why you charge it at 80% is one thing is to get to that 80%, the battery don't get heated up as much.
Okay.
And that don't count as a full cycle. That counts at a 0.35 or so.
Okay.
So let's say 0.5. So if your battery is designed to be charged at 100% at thousands times, if you charge it at 80%, you get 2000 times.
Okay.
But you're sacrificing that 20%, right? But 20%
your range will be little bit less.
Correct. So when you're buying an electric car, two things you have to look for: whether the battery is active cooled. So if you're getting even the newest Leaf, it's not.
Okay.
So active cooling means it has a cooling system where they will cool that battery. But when a Nissan Leaf or most of the cheap EVs, they don't have that.
Okay.
So what happens is that battery temperature just goes all over the place, right? It might be hot, it might be cold. So when you're charging your EV, let's say you're at home, you want to charge your EV, I wouldn't recommend you come home and plug it in, right? Wait until it will cool down and do it in the night, say after 12 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
Most EV cars has something called a timer, set it up, it goes and then it charges, right?
Yeah.
So this applies to laptops as well. So hotter it get, if you keep that at 100%, even though you don't use that battery degrades with time. So it doesn't matter whether your cycle count is 100, but if you still keep it, so it's better. I mean, it's good to exercise that battery a little as well. So use it, unplug it, let it go down, and don't let it go down below 20%, 30%, right?
Yeah. Normally, if you take laptops, they will warn you at 20%.
Correct. So keep it around 30 and then plug it in. Make sure it goes to about 70, 80 and unplug it.
Yeah.
And then use it. So it's not easy. I mean, I don't know why people still haven't come up with a tool to do this. I even searched for it once. There's no tools, right? For phones, you get an app called Ampere, right? But still, it won't stop the battery from charging. It will give you an alert when it reaches that level. So it applies to phone as well, right? A lot of people ask, how often should I charge?
Yeah.
So it's fine if you plug it in for 5 minutes, unplug it, right? It doesn't count as a full cycle. Anyway, but if you keep on charging it to 100%, then it is get counted. So even if you go from 90 to 100, it's a cycle, right? So that's tricky. So batteries are pretty bad. So I mean, sorry, I jump into this because then my wife said, "Why didn't you tell me this?" I don't know. So the laptop manager say that's, so the original this joke came into the illness, said Apple has given a guide on how to use the screen, right?
Yeah.
So similarly on batteries, this is the guide, right?
Yeah. But the thing is, no one cares about the manuals, right?
Correct. I mean, there have been a lot of people, buying EV cars as a daily runner, and they always charge it at 100, right?
Yeah.
And I've seen so many Nissan Leafs giving up their battery capacity by a few bars. So state of health comes to about 70-80% just after like 30,000 kilometers. This is why, right?
Yeah. You can like, if you follow these instructions, you can like double the.
Correct. And parking it hot sun, keeping it really hot, charging it in a hot sun, right? When you're going on a trip, you just, if you're doing it once and or like let's say you go on a trip like once or twice a year and you do this, it's fine, right?
Yeah.
But if you continuously do this, I've seen people, coming from really distance, they come, they plug it in at office or somewhere else, they charge it, they go back, right?
Yeah.
So that's not the case, right? These cars are not really designed to do long runs. They were designed to do about 50 to 60 kilometers, which they have done the math and they said, look, average commute for a European or a European commuter is about 50 kilometers a day.
Yeah.
So that's the logic they have, right? So if you charge it at 80%, you still have a healthy reserve of 40 to 50 kilometers more. So that's all the time we have for this segment. So see you after the next. Welcome back. So before the break, we were talking about batteries, but there's more to talk about, right?
Yeah.
So I think we spoke about last week as well, like apps listening into you, fake apps on the App Store.
Yeah.
Now, this is not iPhone's. Basically the what do you call it?
Apple Store.
Apple Store. So
App
that's
Store.
not App Store.
Yeah.
So basically, they are not the one who's getting hammered in these things, right?
Yeah.
It's always Android and it's Google. So now there has been a WhatsApp app, a fake one, been downloaded more than 1 million times.
Yeah.
Pretend to be. So when you're installing an app, you see certain things, right? So let's say if I open.
Well, if you like setting up a new phone,
what you basically do is you search for WhatsApp, right?
Yeah.
And so if I search for WhatsApp, I'd say WhatsApp, and it comes in, right?
You see the logo, you see the name,
and you say install.
Yeah. So when you're like installing a new phone, you normally install a few apps at start, right? So the one of the main ones is WhatsApp.
Correct. So so a lot of people would wonder how this has happened, right?
Yeah.
So these are now, we are living in a age where things are automated, right? So you register for something, you do something, and the systems automatically validate.
Yeah.
That's how so basically Google works, right? In terms of their Google Play.
Yeah.
Google Play is where you install your apps, right? So at this point, someone has tricked Google. They put WhatsApping with a space, again with a Unicode character.
Right.
And 1 million people downloaded it.
Yeah. I mean, you can't blame people who has downloaded it, right? It's very hard to like detect if it's the fake one or the real one.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Unless I really look at it and seeing that only 1 million has downloaded, where it should have been 1 billion,
that's the only clue I think you have there.
So how are you going to stay protected, right? Actually, I don't have an answer to it.
Yeah.
So now it has come to a point even the smartest people wouldn't be able to see these things, right?
Yeah.
And how many times we go through all this and try to scrutinize it, and it come to a point where we are really paranoid. I think that's where Apple shines, right?
Yeah.
So Apple manually validate each and every app that goes into their store.
Yeah.
So that's good. That's how it should be, right?
Yeah.
where Google is more for thinking about this machine learning, computerization, and all that, right? There's so much still computers
Yeah,
can
and
do.
the advertising, like, they are more open than Apple, so anyone can do.
I mean,
whatever.
I don't really care at this point whether it's open. I mean, developer, I mean, go through few hoops, right?
Yeah.
If you want to put up an app,
Yeah.
what's wrong with that?
Oh, I mean, what they can do is at least protect the most downloaded apps, right? So everyone is downloading like number of apps, right?
Correct.
At least if you take top 10, then you can like protect that 10.
So I mean, with all this, what I don't get is they have something called Google Play Protect, right? So what does this do, right? Now it's a question, right? If an app can do this, so what does this Play Protect does? Again, that's why we said never put your trust on these antiviruses. So this is like somewhat of a virus scanning thingy, right?
Yeah.
So they scan for certain things. So if you have WhatsApp installed on your phone, make sure it's actually from WhatsApp.
Yeah.
But what happens is when these kind of things get detected and pulled out, you actually get notified, right? So if you have actually downloaded that fake app, you get notified. So that's the only thing. So going back to paranoia, Facebook is listening to you.
So some people are claiming this, but Facebook has come and said that they are not doing it. So I mean, Facebook doesn't actually have to listen to us, right? They already know many things about us. So
correct.
How the we have talked about this earlier as well. So how they are following us everywhere is using the Pixel and
so Pixel is where third-party website put this in place, right? I mean, if you are really, I mean, let's go into this now. So if you have an Android phone, you are paranoid that let's say WhatsApp is listening to you. You can go to apps, right? On your settings, go to apps, right? Then you get. I'm referring to a Samsung, but this is the most case for all phones that has somewhat of a latest version of Android. So 6 and above. Let's say I have an app. So Play Store does this. When you're installing something, it tells you what that app has access to, right? So let's say you're installing, let's say, a taxi app. And if that taxi app is asking for your location, understandable. So then you know that this location is needed so that they can do this, right? If your taxi app is asking for SMS, you can validate it, right? App might need to validate your phone number, get this in. It's fine, right? Still. And after the validation, you can just disable the access, right? If that app is asking for contact information, that's little tricky. Now then you have to wonder, so I just want to book a cab, why this app need to have my access to my contacts, right? So then you can do two things. If this is a known app, if you really know about it, if you trust that party, but still you don't want that app to have access, you can still install it. And once you go into app setting, let's say for example, I'll take so the most untrusted one I have is the Facebook Messenger, right? I have the light version, right? So if I go into that app inside, there's something called permissions. So if you click on that permission thing, it shows all the permission that has, right? So in my case, it has the access to camera, it has access to contact, it has access to microphone, it has access to the phone, it has access to SMS, and it has access to storage. So storage is understandable. Let's say Tilina send me an image, I need to download that, it goes into my storage, right? It's fine. So let's say camera, unless I do video calls, unless I take pictures and send it, I don't need to, right?
You can turn it off.
Okay, now microphone is another one. Unless you really make calls, you don't have to give access to it, right? You can just simply off it. Phone, I really don't need to, because it doesn't really have to have access to my phone, right? Phone is a dial and all that. So I can disable that. SMS, no. Why does it need access to SMS, right? So I can disable that. So currently on mine, I don't take calls from WhatsApp, Messenger, Facebook Messenger. I don't really need for it to read my contacts, so I disable that. Microphone I disable, camera I disable, phone I disable, SMS I disable, and storage only I have given, right?
And still you can use the basic functionality.
So app works fine, right? So so similarly you can do a lot of things, right? So when if you are really little smart enough, I mean even in the studio we had the same issue, right?
Yeah.
So one gentleman who's actually doing a recording, not in today. So he had a phone where he get this pop-up notification on the phone, right?
Basically ads.
Basically ads, right?
Yeah.
So this is a feature called, Android has something called overlay, right?
Yeah.
So any app can pop up on top of another app.
Yeah. And also I've seen people with ads on the lock screen as well.
So that's called administrative access.
Yeah.
So what you can do is, if you go, I mean that's how we found out, right? So if you go to settings and then see what app says administrative access,
Yeah.
you can simply disable that, because otherwise if you don't disable that, you won't be able to even uninstall this app.
Yeah.
So it's basically like a virus, right? So these are the tricky things, right? So people tend to download things without even thinking,
Yeah.
just because they want to. And there are a lot of ads now on apps, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you might trust the app.
Yeah.
You might trust where it's coming from, right? Let's say you validated it, you know this app is there, so you install this and you see an ad.
Mm-hmm.
So these ads are not 90% of the time properly moderated.
Yeah.
So when you click on that app, what happens is it goes back to like a another site that download an app, right?
Yeah.
Without even you thinking about it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's how they get you. It's not the first step. You might download a game.
Mm-hmm.
That game will say, hey, go to the next level, you need this. Or it might be another ad. You don't even know it's an ad because you might think it's another part of the app, right?
Yeah.
You click on it, it goes, you download it. So, I mean, it's, again, even if you're smart, it happens. So it's really tricky nowadays just to identify these things, right? So I think Google need to do something and fix it.
Yeah.
So that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining us. So if you have any question, comments, how you can get in touch with us, drop us an email, arttechtalk@takaselk.com, or go to the Art TV Facebook page or the YouTube channel. Yeah. And search for Art Tech Talk on YouTube. It's the easier way to find out, right? So see you next week.